All right, Halloween is here, and with that, we have another interesting new scary movie coming to you from Australia, a very, very different type of possession movie. And to discuss that movie, we have our friend of the podcast, Chris Chang, horror movie aficionado, coming back to discuss that with us. The movie for today's episode is Talk to Me. Let's talk for a minute.
Happy Halloween.
Well, first of all, I got to say this, Chris. I'm glad to have you back, man. This is we're on episode 33, and you and I talked last on episode 28 for Smile. So now we're back for doing another spoiler review, and I'm especially happy. And man, I think you'll be happy about this too. This is the Halloween episode, the October month episode,
Hell yeah.
man.
This movie, Talk to Me, I think I haven't seen a horror in a while. And so, how you mentioned this preview a while back and how it's got all the hype and the fan following. I was really excited to see it, especially during this time of the season. So for the first horror that I've seen in a while, it definitely set the bar high.
Let me ask you this, just out of the gate before we get into it. What would be your score for this movie out of 10?
Let me see. I would say 8.75.
8.75. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like somewhere between like an 8 and an 8.5. There are some things that, I mean, we'll get to the pros and cons, but yeah, a lot of great things to talk about it. Like on the pro side, there's some, I don't know, maybe I'm being picky, but I had some stuff in the cons too. But yeah, the opening scene, man.
Opening scene, man. I guess it's a high schoolers throwing a high school party.
Hmm.
A lot of people, you're following this character into a house and everybody's just partying and drinking. And he's trying to find his brother. And his brother's like locked in a room and you can tell like there's something going on behind the doors. We're not sure if he's by himself or with someone, but they eventually get the door open and he's sitting there obviously distraught. Like something's happening, but we're not sure. And so the brother's like, confiding in him and just supporting him, be like, hey, let's get out of here, let's get out of the party. It's too much going on. And so as they're walking out, just out of the blue, I forget if he exchanged any words or said anything specifically, but from what I can remember, he takes out a knife, stabs his brother, and then just stabs himself in the head.
It's
And then it's just like scene's cut, and you're like, whoa.
I mean, there were so many like jump moments. Definitely, like I remember, like, yeah, he brings the brother out of the room, and everyone's like holding up their phones, like, hey, stop recording. When he turns back to go deal with his brother just attacks him, like just stabs him like that, and then stabs him, himself. And I don't know. I feel like we probably both had this moment of like, holy shit, okay, like if I didn't know this was a horror movie, I'm
Now,
well aware now.
yeah, it was definitely a jump scare. I'm like, oh, thinking about like, okay, this kid was possessed. I can't wait till the story unfolds.
And so the whole story, or the way that they kind of unfold everything, that the beginning and the end, how it comes full circle, is such a satisfying thing, like of a story. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, that's how all that started. I mean, not exactly for that, the guy at the beginning, but you see like how he got to that point. You know what I mean? Like, so, and now how it's going to happen to the next person, and how it carries on.
Wait, are you talking about the very end scene?
Yeah.
Because what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Jumanji. Like, like this group of people that are like found thing and now is like wants to play. I was like, oh my gosh, is there going to be a second one? Who
Oh
knows?
no, they already commissioned a Talk to Me, and of course,
Oh,
in great marketing style, the Talk to Me, the title, two is the number two. So like, just
got
no,
it.
but dude, I love it because like when they first do the first dare or whatever, when she's possessed, she sees someone that she doesn't recognize, like, and it makes her jump. Like she sees like some,
Yeah.
and that's what it's like. For the other, and that's what it's like for her at the end. You know what I mean? Like they don't recognize her. The person who's doing the dare this time doesn't recognize her, but is scared by her. Like
Oh my gosh, you just made sense. I forgot about that part. Yeah, because she's now the spirit,
just yeah.
and it's a different perspective, and she's looking out. That's right. Holy cow.
We can use this definitely to jump into the pros and cons, but like because there's a little bit of both here. The pros, I love how they unfold everything in this film. You know what I mean? The opening and the end kind of coming full circle. Like there's something just like where when those things like, oh, that piece that I was like, what the hell's happening here? Like that aha moment, later on towards the end. I loved all of that. The only con and it was like there was no explanation at all as to like what is this curse.
Yeah, yeah. I thought of a lot that was unsaid or untold, and I mean, I guess it's kind of, I guess it's that's kind of how I felt with our other review. Remember the movie.
Smile.
Smile. That's right.
Mm.
Because I remember feeling the same. Wow, I felt like there has yet to, kind of explain the whole concept of the movie. I feel like I've same similar feeling with this one.
Yeah, I mean, this one though, I don't know. I liked it a little bit more than Smile just because I felt like okay, at least I can see how the beginning and end connect, even if there isn't, again, that full explanation. But both of them have that kind of easy out of like, all right, well, that's what number two will be about. We'll go into some of the backstory, the lore. Um, but I don't know, like when you have to like completely lean on that, leave out, just I don't know. See, I don't want to take off too much because I feel like that's where it's being nitpicky. It's like someone who goes to see an action movie or a comic book movie and they're like, that's not realistic. I'm like, are you serious? Like, enjoy the movie, you know?
Exactly, just for pure pleasure.
Yeah, so
Stop.
but yeah, for the pros, man, like I love how this was different. I felt because you know how as the possessions are happening, they're recording it and they're putting it out on social media. And I like remember like they had already even seen some of the footage, and they're like, "That's not real. That's green screen and whatever and special effects." And and then they're like, "No, we're recording you like as it happens." Like that was, I'm like, that's different.
Yeah, I was excited to kind of hear how one of the characters, like how he got it, like how he got in possession of the item,
Mm,
because there was a beginning. Yeah, you see how it's kind of like the interaction with the entire group and how the game or the challenge is played,
hmm
and then there was just so much more that I was yearning for. I was like, wait a second, so how did this guy get this? Like, where did these two individuals that are kind of the bad
Yeah.
kids of the high school, the outcasts that are doing stuff that is kind of not to the
hmm
norm, and so they acquire this hand, right? This talk to me hand. But I'm glad that there was in the middle of the movie, the one of the characters is like, oh, I got this off, quote unquote, whatever his name, Bobby or
Right.
whoever, and tied into their way of trying to find more answers by contacting this brother that ended up killing himself, but ended up stabbing his brother. And the brother who's still alive did not want anything to do with it
Mm.
because he was just so traumatized by the hand and the actions that it kind of led to, which was interesting.
I mean, yeah, like again, just very unique, this whole storytelling. I gotta say, I feel like, especially with horror, if you have, and look, I don't mean there are plenty of great American horror movies, but I feel like when we see horror movies that come from other countries, I don't know, they add something different to it. Like in this case, this was from Australia. It just very creative. I liked even some of the music, and like there were parts when they're hanging out as friends or when they're doing the possession stuff, it's playing very light music, and you're kind of laughing like, hey, this is like a regular
Uh,
Saturday night for them, like it just
yeah,
it was it was a trip. The other thing too, though, is that I feel I was surprised with one thing. You know, like I feel like here in the States, people are more used to violent content and gore and doesn't phase them as much. But there were two things that they went to with this movie that I didn't expect. One, they showed like that deer. So like, you know, there's like again violence with animals. And then the one that was and I think I want to caution people on this. There's a scene where they really take it far of a kid who gets hurt. That definitely made me uncomfortable. I know it made all of us. I'm sure it made all of us uncomfortable, but it was. I just was surprised they went there.
Yeah, kind of pushing
Right?
boundaries.
You know, I'm like, oh, okay, okay. You really want to see if I can squirm? Okay, this is like really. They tied it back to the family trauma, to the main girl character, and there were definitely a lot of things with this movie that I didn't see coming. You know, what I mean, like, okay, I knew there was going to be, you know, some violence or possession, you know, of like spirits, but even then, I'm like, oh, damn, okay, yeah, didn't see that coming. Yeah, it's a unique movie.
Wait, so let's back up
Okay,
here a little
okay.
bit. Like I mean, it's been a couple days since I've seen the movie, and I feel like I didn't get the full under. Like I feel like there was pieces
Mm,
missing of like understanding like exactly what happened. So so I felt so the movie how what was interesting was with the interaction when they were doing the possession. I felt like I was there,
mm.
which was really cool. The camera angles, the music, the
Oh
environment
yeah,
felt like it was like in a record like in a camcorder
oh yeah.
kind of thing. Oh, it was like very inviting. It was like, okay, cool, I'm participating, which is really awesome. So the deer, because I feel like there's a lot of symbolisms or a lot of metaphors. I feel like the deer was symbolic of what?
I didn't fully understand. Like honestly, I don't know. Like, and they brought it back like to her seeing it in the hospital too. And like I don't know if maybe it was also somehow possessed or something like yeah. So like that was definitely a piece that didn't make sense.
Yeah, and I would say this is like the cons. Is like there are a lot of pieces that I felt that I didn't really have the clear answer
Mm,
to in like understanding the movie
yeah,
more. I'll knock off, 0.25 and do it 8.5 because now that we're talking about it, I was like, okay, I would hope that there was a relation to it. Maybe I don't understand it just yet. Maybe I have to read into it or, go online and actually see what people are talking
yeah.
about. Um, but yeah, that's the question I had was like, what did the deer kind of
Mm.
mean? What I thought they did well was the like scratching in the
Oh my
door,
gosh.
nail
Hmm.
polish that I knew that he was like feel like finicky with because in the beginning when the main character was before she even tried the game or touched the hand. So basically, for reviewers that haven't seen the movie, how the challenge works is that they have a hand and there's all these inscriptions on the hand and I don't know what the inscriptions
Right.
are, but basically they light a candle and you sit in front of this hand that's reached out to you and you pretty much give it a shake.
Mm.
And once you say talk to me, you're inside this realm of you'll see the spirit, whoever the spirit
Mm.
is. And then once they start once you start seeing this thing or once they say talk to me, they'll have a
Right.
timer. You can then say let you in, right? And that will further on you'll be in this environment, in this possession of this person, of this spirit, and basically take over your
Yeah.
body. I noticed before she started getting possessed, her and her girlfriend. So it's this main character, her really close friend, and her brother. So the main character doesn't have any brothers or sister. It's her friend and her own brother. They're like best buds. The family knows each other, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, I remember the two girls are like doing their nails and it's like pristine. And then throughout the movie, you can see her like picking at her nails and it's like becoming really like
Oh
chipped and just, you know, it's just getting worse and
yeah.
worse. And correct me if I'm wrong. I remember this girl, the main character, does a session. I feel like she got like a high off of
Mm.
it. I feel like she enjoyed it because she was like, let me do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like there was like an addiction part to it because the people that were participating in this activity felt like, it was like a high because how they described it was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this feeling was
They want to
great.
go longer than 90
So
seconds. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the whole thing with the 90 seconds. Like if they let them in for 90 seconds, if it's beyond that, it could take over
Right.
your
Yeah. They want to
body
stay.
and and there were some spirits that are very connected. And I remember like the people that are watching or videoing, they had to like pry the hand, the physical hand, off of the person participating because it was just the energy was just so
Hmm.
strong.
Yeah,
Um,
they have to blow out the
so
candle, right? And then like try to push them off if they can. Yeah.
so what happens to this main character? Did she get like this brings me to another con, I guess, because from what I can gather of just how the movie
Mm-hmm.
went and progressed was that the spirit took over her
Mm-hmm.
body because maybe she lasted for more than
She
90
went, yeah, she went
seconds.
longer than 90 seconds. She stayed for a while.
Went
Yeah.
longer, right? And the candle wasn't blown out at the
Yeah,
time.
well, I don't know. Like they they were all kind of distracted. I think they were like laughing, still videoing the stuff. Like I don't think they were paying super close attention. Like because they at first thought it was all like kind of light and fun and jokes still. Like they didn't realize that like this has now gone on too long. The the other
Yeah.
thing, like as part of the con, why were the spirits so obsessed with the younger kid? Why did they want to keep him? Why were they torturing him? Like, why did they, in that one scene, beat the shit out of him? Like, just, I didn't understand. Like, they never talked about it, like, the only part that made it kind of work in the movie is like I mean, he's her brother. So, like, you're concerned about him from her point of view. I did not understand what was so important about the brother and why they wouldn't let him go. They being the spirits or demons or whatever it was. It was kind of a, and maybe like again that could be a sequel answer, but like I don't. In the movie, they commit a lot of time to that. So
Yeah.
so like a little something, even don't even give a full answer, but give like a nugget, something, and they didn't do that.
I
Yeah.
wonder if it was because he was definitely
Mm.
younger. So I wonder more pure, more innocent, more vulnerable. Because even the friends were like, "Hey, no, he's too young."
Yeah.
Maybe maybe something like you have to becoming of age. Maybe it's like same thing with like cigarettes and drinking and stuff. This activity is only for adults, quote unquote.
Mm.
I mean, like you said, I hope that they're able to answer that in a sequel because it was interesting. Because when she had done another set, when the main character did another session, yeah, she saw the spirits just holding him down and being like, we're not letting him go.
Yeah.
And that scene itself is pretty jarring
Oh my
because
gosh. Yeah.
just the characters and the way that it was just visually displayed was pretty
Oh
scary.
yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if that could be the reason is it's just more like
Mm.
innocent, vulnerable kind of age, and maybe that's why they wanted to keep him. But when the kid did get possessed, that was like you said, maybe the Australian viewers and the content have more leeway with this, but being that he's a kiddo and
Hmm.
pretty graphic in terms of when the spirit had taken over his body
Yeah.
during that 9-second interval. Yeah, I could go without seeing that again
Eh,
because
it's
for
not for the light stomach
the
and light heart. Yeah.
for the viewers not having seen the movie yet,
Mm.
it was big, and the injuries that he had sustained was life altering. And also the scene when they're in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, like they continued with it, like
Yeah, and he's with his own sister, and she's like helping him how to wash
yeah, and
up,
he's hurting himself.
and yeah, and I guess he's still possessed at the time, and he's just like bang head on the shower wall, and it was a lot.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, but again, like this being like an Australian-made film, like one thing I a movie like this, I mean, that part was particularly disturbing, yes, but like this whole movie though being so different, so creative, it definitely makes me more curious now about more international films, like because I thought this I loved like all the Australian representation in this movie. You have these two brothers who I pulled up their names right now, Danny and Michael Philippou, who they also have I didn't realize they're popular YouTubers. They have this channel called Raka Raka. They've done I think a lot of I think it's comedic comedy, but I'll double check myself on that. Yeah, and just the fact that they made this movie, there was some pressure to be like, hey, let's actually bring an American cast and set it in America. And again, nothing wrong with that. But if your original idea is to set it in Australia, and there are things that are unique to this story that you believe you want to show your home, why not? I'm glad that they fought for that. They kept it there.
Yeah.
I think all the cast are Australian. The cast, they're all Australian. The directors, and it's made by A24, which is this awesome production company. And two other things I want to throw out: the time. It's not that long of a movie, an hour and a half, goes by pretty quick, and it was a very successful movie for this summer too. For this year, it earned 90 million on a $4.5 million budget, so it did crazy well.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing.
And
Good for them.
totally, man. But so yeah, this movie, I'm very excited to see like where they're gonna go with the sequel. Now I want to flip to Halloween, man, because with Halloween, I know this is the time of year that we love for sure. Question I want to throw out there, it's a tough one, man. Okay, okay, I could just ask, what's your favorite Halloween movie? That's the tough, impossible question. So I'll put it this way: either if you can answer that, what's your favorite Halloween movie, or what is a really good Halloween movie that just comes to mind right now, like something maybe recent that you're like, oh wow, I forgot, like that was a really good one, or yeah,
Ooh, I'm gonna have to have you take the lead on this.
okay,
Like I said, Talk to Me has been probably the most horror movie I've seen in a
mm.
while. I can't remember the last horror movie prior to Talk to Me.
uh,
Then again, like it's strange. I like horror. I mean, if I
you want I can give you like I have one for like traditional horror and one for kind of psychological horror. Do you have, or do you want me to?
that reminds me, I did see. I think they were playing it on TV a while back. It was Cabin Fever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was watching in the background, and it kind of reminded me, like, 'cause it was, for Halloween and stuff. But that one I enjoyed. I wouldn't say my favorite, but I was like, all
Okay.
right, like I can watch, just be
I mean,
entertained.
it's one
Uh,
it's a unforgettable one, you would say.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Go with yours. I forget.
So again, I don't know if this would be like my favorite, but one that like definitely stays in my mind is the very first Saw movie. The very first one set in that cellar or whatever, and I did not want to watch all the others. There's like I think they just released Saw 10, by the way. Like so I think I remember telling you that it actually has better reviews than the first one, which is really surprising to me because the first one, it was fresh, and had some good twists and kind of you could see what you can do with a low budget movie. But yeah, that one, like for horror, definitely stays in my mind. Then psychological horror, like or psychological thriller, if we're counting that. There are two movies I would say. One is Village of the Damned. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Chris.
I don't think I've ever seen that
I
one.
think it was the last movie that Christopher Reeves made before he was paralyzed. And it's this something happens over this town. All the women they become pregnant at the same time. They all deliver at the same time. And these kids, as they grow up, they look and behave the same. It's a very creepy quality. If they look at you and you stare back at them, they can make you do things. Um,
Oh god.
Kirstie Alley was in the movie too. Like it was John Carpenter who made the original Halloween movie. This was one of his stories, and it's really fucked up. So that's one. It's kind of a mix, actually, I guess, of horror and psychological horror. The other one, I don't know what you would call this, like arachnophobia, because it's not a horror.
I would say that's a horror.
That definitely got me afraid of
I
spiders for sure.
100% agree. You mentioning all these movies now. I think I have
Mm,
my top five
okay.
of horror and thriller. Psychological thriller. Arachnophobia for
Okay.
sure, because my sister made me watch that when I was really young, and to this day, I'm terrified of
Yeah.
spiders, and I thank her for it. I just remember that scene of like they're in the basement, and he has like a nail gun or something,
Yeah.
like with a fire, and he shoots that nest, and it just explodes. And
Ugh.
oh man, just anytime I see even small, big spiders, I get a little queasy. But yes, arachnophobia has definitely
Mm.
done some damage in my head.
Okay.
For horror, though, it reminds me of. So I like adventure
Mm.
horrors, which which I think it which really kind of makes sense because I'm a big outdoorsman. I love to travel. That being said, Hostel
How did I how
was
did I know you were gonna say that? Like I was I'm like he's gonna say hostile. Like Eli Roth. Yeah.
Hostel so fucked
Yeah.
up. At the time, it was just like, oh my god, like this is
Yeah.
terrifying because this could happen. But the fact of it's something that I love to do is travel and meet new people and travel to new
Mm.
places. It's like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Just because it could be
Yeah.
reality. That, and I don't know if you've seen, is it The Cave?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. It's about the group of the girls who go like there, and then there's the creatures. Yeah, I heard that one's really messed up. I haven't seen that.
They're an
Yeah.
explorer team. They find this cave, and they go in and scramble in, and like you said, they find these creatures that basically hunt
Yeah.
them. And that I remember that was very terrifying
It
as
shook you
well.
up?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, even now, like I explore caves and stuff, I'm like, oh my god, creatures out here that might be hunting me.
Listener, I asked that follow up to Chris. Does it shake him up? Because like this friend of mine, he has a threshold for these kind of movies. So if he's telling you that, like, yeah, like that was fucked up, like I'm telling that should be an indicator.
Those two are like my like bread and butter. What I can remember, like that made an impact on how I perceive life.
But so going over these movies, I wanted to include the point of for Halloween movies, are horror movies Halloween movies? Are psychological thrillers also included? I feel like, that's one of those like tough questions, of
That is a tough question because like traditionally Halloween is like, oh, Jason and like kind of stuff. And
yeah.
I think it really depends on the person
Mm,
because if it's like scares you more, I think I'm gonna retract on that. I don't feel like that's Halloweeny,
mm,
like Halloween, um, in nature. Because when I think of Halloween, I think of like the Jasons
sure.
and Mike Myers kind of stuff. Scream, I feel like is kind of Halloweeny
Oh,
because people
definitely.
dress up as. But for like my horror that I like, which is like adventures or like travel
Hmm.
horror, I feel like those, in my personal opinion, doesn't really classify as horror or
Hmm.
Halloweeny. But to whoever, if they get the scare, or if they make that the feeling of being
Yeah.
frightened, the association of Halloween, and you're getting scared, I get it.
Yeah, if it's one of those where it's like, all right, I'm gonna leave the door open, I'm gonna have a nightlight on. Like, oh,
I
I'm
mean,
watching this at home by myself at night. Great. I mean, and look,
uh,
if it gives you that feeling where you're scared like that, like a little kid, but you could be a grown ass man or grown ass woman, whatever. Like, I think then it's done its job as a Halloween movie.
yeah,
Just
The
oh
Ring
yeah, oh my
in that movie.
gosh, when the girl came
Yeah,
out of the TV, like I jumped out of my skin like that.
I feel like that would be very appropriate Halloween movie, just because that was frightening. Halloween's always been, I would say, is like second or third holiday that I like to
Oh yeah.
experience. Going back to the movie, I had a quick question. I remember with like same thing with Smile, the trauma,
Hmm.
right? The trauma the individual has been going through. I wanted to chat with you about like the relationship with that because there was at a point where I was like, what happened to the mom? So from what I understand, right, the mom had
Mm.
depression, suffering from
Yeah.
depression. She couldn't, and then she took her life. But then there was at a point where the spirits were telling her this the main character when she was still in communication or could still hear and see the spirits, being like when the character was trying to find more answers in regarding to what had happened to her mom because she wasn't there. The mom was in her room, and the husband, her father, main character's father, was trying to open the door, trying to save her because he noticed that she wasn't responding, and finally opened the door, was able to, see his wife unconscious and,
Yeah.
dead. So the daughter was trying to understand exactly what had happened, and from what we gathered, the daughter and the dad don't have really a great relationship. The main character and her mom had a very tight relationship.
Hmm.
And so when the daughter was like trying to connect with her mom's spirit after she had passed, was like, "Hey mom, did you commit suicide? Or like what happened? Like talk to me. Like I want to find more answers to what had happened to you."
Right.
I felt like she already was thinking like, "Oh, did you commit suicide? Did dad hurt you? Did he give you more pain, like more meds than you were taking?" Because from the story, it was like she was taking some sleeping pills, I
Yeah.
think,
See,
something.
not
Uh,
clear.
and
All of
so
this was not.
it's not
Yeah.
clear, and that's what's so
Hmm.
frustrating because when the main character is possessed and can communicate with these spirits, there was a point in time where the spirit was like, "Don't trust your dad. Your dad's the one who had killed your mom, and be careful because now you're at
Yeah.
risk for him to kill you." And so when I was watching this, I was like, "Man, I'm a little confused here because just the backstory of what actually happened to the
Hmm.
mom." With going with the movie, maybe that will kind of explain itself, but in the moment I was just flooded with so much
Hmm.
information.
Yeah. I mean,
Feel the same.
no.
I don't know, I just had a lot of like question marks above my
Totally. No, no,
head.
a lot of question marks in this movie. And again, like, sure, there can be sequels, but like, I feel, so that whole thing where I was saying before, like, okay, the things I would complain about in a horror movie and then comparing it to like an action or comedy, like, it's not about like, oh, is it realistic or could this really happen? It's not about that. It's that without enough information, then why do we care about these people? You know what I mean? Whether it's an action, romance, horror, comedy, that's the only reason why I say like it's not about the realism or any of that stuff. Whatever, I'm not. I don't think any of us are that uptight about it. It's just enough pieces of information to know why. No, and I don't have an answer for you on that. Like I was equally as confused, on that. One thing I wanted to mention before I forget, just because you had mentioned from your list of movies, you had mentioned Cabin Fever and you had mentioned Hostel. Both of those are Eli Roth movies. That is the guy who directed those. He has a new one coming out, Chris, by next month. It's called Thanksgiving. It's this town. They're having like parades and, Thanksgiving dinners and all that. And there's a serial killer on the loose who's dressed up as a pilgrim. When I saw that, I'm like, this is his jam. Like Chris is definitely going to want to, I got to tell him about this. So I'll send you the trailer for sure.
Dude, I can't wait. That sounds great. A person or whoever dressed up as a pilgrim on a murder spree. Amazing.
Now let's recap our scores for this movie though. For Talk to Me, out of 10, you were saying before I think like 8.75. Like, do you stand by that now?
I don't know. After talking about it more, maybe even being more confused, I think I'm gonna drop it down to like a probably an eight
Mm.
out of 10.
I,
Yeah.
I told you before, like between 8 and 8.5. I bump it down to 7.5 just because like it's good, but unfortunately, there like a few of these pieces that we're missing were both important things, just to make sense or to care about
Yeah.
these people. Like, okay, why, what's going on? But I still think for these brothers, the Philippou brothers, awesome debut of a movie, and I definitely want to check their YouTube channel, Raka Raka. I can't wait to see the Talk to Me sequel, man.
Yeah, same here. I can't wait to see what the brothers come up with next, and look forward to hopefully making sense of this movie a little better.
Absolutely, man. Hey, Chris, wishing you and our listeners a really happy Halloween. I am so glad to have you back for the second episode. Um, and I hope we can get you on for more episodes in the future. Yes?
Absolutely,
All
man.
right.
And with that, we're going to wrap up our Halloween episode. Chris, thank you so much, my friend. It is always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You got to come back. We will definitely do some more episodes together. Talk to Me is absolutely a very different kind of horror movie. Yeah, there's some issues here and there, as you heard, but it is a very, very impressive feature debut for two brand new filmmakers. I do hope you check it out. Let me know what you think. Have a very happy, very fun Halloween, and thank you for listening.
Happy Halloween.